Reaction to
And I saw
Ethiopia Italy war.
30-second clip about how Ethiopia had never gotten colonized.
Which is crazy.
And I was like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Let's go dive into this. So we just sat, we were watching a couple other things. We were like, yo, let's look into this. So we found a video that's 9 minutes long. And I'm like a freaking kid, and I'm so excited.
We need to find the answers.
So we got, how did Italy lose to Ethiopia? 1895, 8-minute history. I gotta see the visuals. So without further ado, let's do what we're doing, do it best, guys. Hey, this is what Italy did. Forget about it. Let's keep popping.
Let's get it.
This video is sponsored by Brilliant. More on that later. Hi, I'm Griffin Johnson, the Armchair Historian. Today's video, how did Italy lose against Ethiopia?
The Armchair Historian. Talk to us, bro.
During the scramble for Africa, every indigenous nation that was invaded by European powers fell within a matter of decades, all except one, the ancient empire of Ethiopia, also known as Abyssinia. As the world watched, the supposedly primitive Ethiopians were able to repel a modern European army. This defeat was grave and humiliating, and many were puzzled as to how it could have occurred.
Ethiopia.
Before we start analyzing this defeat, let's get some background on the cause of the invasion.
It was like right there.
In 1869, not long after Italy was unified into one kingdom, the Italians, who felt that they were falling behind in the scramble for Africa, purchased a small port on the Red Sea from the local Eritreans, and began expanding outwards. In approximately 20 years, they controlled a significant portion of East Africa, and as this was occurring, the nearby Ethiopian Empire, which had existed in the region for over 600 years, suddenly found itself cut off from the sea. And by 1887, skirmishes were occurring between the Italians and local Ethiopian warlords. This culminated in the Battle of Dogali, in which an Italian column was ambushed and destroyed by the Ethiopians.
Let's go!
After this, the Italians were determined to pacify Ethiopia, and they saw their chance when its emperor died and the throne was claimed by the Italian-supported Menelik II. Italy signed a treaty with Menelik that promised backing to his claim, as well as financial and military aid, in exchange for recognition of Italy's colonial territories. However, there were two versions of the treaty. One was written in Italian, and the other Amharic, the language of Ethiopia, and each had different terms. The contentious clause, which eventually would lead to the outbreak of war, was in the Italian version of the treaty.
Okay, so technically, if I'm reading this correctly, or hearing this correctly, so Italy gave, there was two versions of the treaty. And both versions had different things in there. So the Italian version probably had things that were more benefiting to the Italians.
Right.
It was like and then the Amharic one was probably had like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do, but this is what we're actually gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which stated that Ethiopia was effectively a colonial protectorate of Italy, a provision that did not exist in the Amharic draft. After Menelik tried to establish diplomatic relations with other European countries, it was only a matter of time before the Italians accused him of breaching the treaty. Although all other European nations refused to recognize Ethiopia's independence, Russia was supportive of Menelik's ambitions, as they were both Orthodox Christian countries. War finally came in December of 1894, when a group of Ethiopian insurgents under the leadership of a local king attacked an Italian fort in the colony of Eritrea. In response to this, the Italians sent expeditions into Ethiopia, an act which served as a declaration of war. The leader of this expedition, General Oresta Baratieri, had previous military experience in the wars of Italian unification and in Eritrea. Baratieri's expedition of 20,000 men was composed of both Italian soldiers and local Eritrean auxiliaries, who were mostly equipped with the nearly outdated Vetterli rifle, which used a black powder cartridge.
Rookies.
Although Baratieri's expedition encountered initial success against some of the local kings, things would change after Menelik assembled a massive army of 200,000 men in September 1895. Though they were armed with spears and swords, about half of them were armed with modern rifles, which had been purchased from the Russians. Interestingly, the Ethiopians, all things considered, were better equipped than their Italian counterparts, who were